Well, hello, everyone. My name is MightyStream, and I'm going to do your February the 26th, just for today, in a meditation. Hope you're having a beautiful day. You can reach me at recoveryofhope21@gmail.com. Okay. The meditation is entitled Remorse. The eighth step offers a big change from a life dominated by guilt and remorse. That's taken from the basic text, page 39. Remorse was one of the feelings that kept us using. We had stumbled our way through active addiction, leaving a trail of heartbreak and devastation too painful to consider. Our remorse was often intensified by our perception that we couldn't do anything about the damage we had caused. There was no way to make it right. We remove some of the power of remorse when we face it squarely. We begin the eighth step by actually making a list of all the people we have harmed. We own our part in our painful past. But the eighth step does not ask us to make right all of our mistakes, merely to become willing to make amends to all those people. As we become willing to clean up the damage we've caused, we acknowledge our readiness to change. We affirm the healing process of recovery. Remorse is no longer an instrument we use to torture ourselves. Remorse has become a tool we can use to achieve self-forgiveness. Just for today, I will use any feelings of remorse I may have as a stepping stone to healing through the 12 steps. Let's take a moment of silence, followed by the we version of the Serenity Prayer. Moment of silence now, please. Thank you. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You know, life is interesting, isn't it? By the time you've come to the eighth step, you've had an opportunity to watch yourself, your best self and your worst self at work. And a lot of the times in my life, I have found that I can still be acting out in a remorseful way or sensing remorse in a way that, unless I'm really still enough, quiet enough, and peaceful enough, I may not even be aware that I'm reliving the past or that I have the butt kicking machine on and I'm making myself pay for past mistakes that I consider very intense mistakes. So what happens is by the time we get to the eighth step, I can see myself coming. I'm able to see my good self versus my other self, the active addiction self, right? Hate to use terms of good and bad, right? When we're talking about human beings. But you understand what I'm saying, correct? That I've learned my patterns. I've learned my assets, if you will, and I've learned my liabilities. So by the time I get to the eighth step, I pretty much have a very good idea of the individuals, including myself, that should go on that list. The problem with the eighth step is that we have a tendency to read into it that I also need to make these amends right now. And here's what I've come to say. If a toddler just learning how to use, going from a bottle to a sippy cup, and now is experimenting with actually drinking out of an open top cup, the type of cup that you and I would drink out of, or glass, right? So the toddler has gone from using the mother's breast to a bottle to a sippy cup to now learning how to drink out of utensils that we all as adults use. Those little fingers will have a hard time grasping a cup with the same circumference that you and I use with our adult hands because they have the hands of a child, correct? So it is likely that if we don't find a cup for that child that will fit its hand better, that there may be some spills, and there probably will be spills regardless to whether or not they have a cup that fits their hand. That child may be aware that it's made a mess, but at 3, 4 years old, the potential for them to clean up that mess to the level that will meet our standards, they may give it a real attempt, and we're going to discipline them and teach them, in a sense, how to clean up behind themselves. But you and I both know, as an adult, I am not expecting a 4-year-old to clean up their own mess to the extent that I'm expecting a 14-year-old to clean up their own mess, and not even a 14-year-old compared to a 24, 34, 44, 54-year-old. This is the spiritual point that I want us to receive about remorse. A lot of the things that we are remorseful for, that we've come into the program thinking that we would never be able to even clean up the mess, never be able to receive any kind of forgiveness at all, let alone forgive ourselves, are coming from the toddler, the child mind of impossibility, because we have not grown spiritually to the point where we understand not only what we've done, but the exact nature of what we've done. Because knowing that I did wrong and I've hurt someone, but not understanding the exact nature of why I acted that way, only leaves me in a feeling of defeat. I know I messed up, but I have absolutely no understanding exactly why I did what I did. And so that increases the potential for me to do it again. So I might be able to tell you that I'm sorry, or maybe even pay you back some money for whatever I've done, or try to correct it in some kind of way, write a letter. But to actually make the amend, to go back over the damaged area and to mend it to the best of my ability, requires that I understand the exact nature of why I did what I did. This is why we have to work the steps and learn the spiritual principles within those steps, so that by the time I get to my 8th step, the people that are going on the list are not a surprise to me. But I understand that this is a complete list that I will present to my sponsor. And my sponsor, as we go into the 9th step and we start discussing how to make direct amends wherever possible, except for when to do so would cause harm, right? Now, that's a whole different set of work. All you're doing in step 8 is becoming willing. Just become willing. If you're in doubt, put the name on there. Just become willing. And believe me, as you grow through these spiritual principles and you begin to take shape into your adult being, your mature spiritual being, the way that you will go about making an amend the way you would go about cleaning up your spill is going to be a lot different than what you would have done or maybe have even tried to do already before you were blessed with these spiritual principles. So now we're going to take remorse and we're not going to look at it from a point of view of just a sad feeling of regret. And I can never change it. There's nothing I can do to make this better. We're going to look at it from the point of view that this is a stepping stone to my healing through, keyword, through the 12 steps. If you get to step 7 and you're entirely ready for God to remove these shortcomings from you, right? Right? Well, that's step 6, right? Entirely ready to have these character defects removed from you. But in step 7, you humbly ask the God of your understanding to remove these shortcomings. If you get to step 7 and you don't go on to step 8 to make a list of all the people that have been harmed by a result of our character defects and our shortcomings, you're only serving half of the cake. You're only getting half of the benefit. And that's why I'm saying that our remorse should allow us to, one, understand there's work to do, but two, that there has been a way developed for us to do that work that is pretty much, I mean, I can't say it's perfect because we're imperfect people, but the route of going through the 12 steps and the spiritual principles of them and learning how to live by them is almost fail proof. And I can't give a percentage of it, but I can say the majority of the people that work this program end up living very successful, peaceful, wonderful lives that are not weighted down with remorse, with no way out, with regret, with no opportunity to make things right. They have found peace from within. And so I just ask of you to give yourself a break. If you're listening to this podcast today and you're still beating yourself up over all of your past wrongs, the people you've hurt, your exes, your children, your parents, your jobs, your bosses, your whatever it is, I am asking you to give yourself a break and work this program the way that it's written and see, just prove to yourself that you didn't come this far to quit and you can do it. My name is MightyStream. I've enjoyed talking to you, and I will be talking to you tomorrow.